Hey everybody, it's the Trout and welcome to another episode of the Trout Show podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we have an excellent guest that's going to talk about something that may be of interest to you, and that is, if you've ever watched American Idol, you may want to know what happens before, what happens during, and what happens after. And those answers are coming from last year's 2023 American Idol top 5 finisher Zachariah Smith, who spent some time telling me about what it's like to audition for American Idol, what it's like to be on American Idol, and what happens when you're left American Idol. That is next on The Trout Show. So sit back, get yourself an adult beverage, and listen to Zachariah Smith talk about what it's like to be on American Idol right after this message from David Smith of Edward Jones. Hey, it's the Trout. Quick question for you. When's the last time you heard from your financial advisor? Well, if you're still thinking about it, apparently it's been a long time. And when you do hear from this individual, do you get a feeling that they're more concerned about their financial wealth than yours? Well, maybe it's time to talk to an expert that's concerned about your financial possibilities. That's David Smith with Edward Jones. David has years of experience of helping people just like you. So why not give him a quick call at 469-372-1587. David's ready to sit down and talk to you about reaching your goals and your financial possibilities. That's David Smith with Edward Jones. 469-372-1587. Get a financial health checkup now with David Smith of Edward Jones. 469-372-1587.
Tonight I'm gonna have myself a real good time. I feel alive, and the world, I'll turn it inside out, yeah. Floating around in ecstasy, so don't stop me now. Come on now, don't stop, 'cause I'm having a good time. A shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger, defying the laws of gravity.
Whose idea was it to try out for American Idol?
It was mine.
And how did you do it? Did you go send a video?
Right. So, just to give a little bit of background, let's keep in mind I've watched American Idol since I think Carrie Underwood was probably my first audition that I had really watched and grasped onto.
Right.
But I had been watching Idol. I've watched Idol for years.
So you started watching when you were a kid. You were just a kid.
Yes.
Watching.
6 years old, I started watching, and keep in mind, at 6 years old, that was also the time that Michael Jackson had just died, and he was one of my biggest inspirators. He was, I watched Thriller one time and I was glued to it and I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And so I knew that, it's like you said, it's that touch. So I had it. And so me and my mama would always watch American Idol, and I always told her when I was young, believe it or not, I predicted it at 6 years old. I told her, I was like, I'm going to be on that show someday. I'm going to be on it.
Yeah.
And so at 6 years old, I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. I knew that that was a way to get into the industry. That was my door I was supposed to walk through. And I knew at a time that it would be waiting on me. So at 15 years old, I auditioned. And
on tape or in person?
In person in Columbus, Ohio. This is when they were setting up the tents, right?
Yeah.
So they go out here, they set up these tents, they do these lines, auditions, everything.
Yeah.
You know how the whole system works. So I go there at 15 years old. I sang some, boring song. It was a slow country song. I probably should have picked, I knew better. I should have picked something that, showed my vocals a little more. But I didn't. And, I was young. It's a really good thing I didn't get on the show that young, because I will say being on the show as a minor and as an adult are two completely different things. You have two different schedules. And so it's a different experience. It's still a good experience both ways, but it's a different experience.
So tell people, how many people do you see and perform in front of before you get to the final where you can get in front of the judges?
Right.
I've known
So
one person that went and they told me what it was like. So tell everybody what that's like.
the in-person auditions.
Yeah, I mean, you show up and there's 3,000 people wanting to do the same thing you want to do, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They ask your name and all that stuff. You go the first group of people, they get
Yep.
your statistics, and then you go into, if I'm not mistaken, then they send you to somebody, and then you try out for people that are just people that are cutting everybody that's not very good. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yep. Yep.
So, and then after, okay, so the first group, if you get past the first group, what happens after that?
So back then when I went to audition my first time,
Right.
I went down. I had my my papers with all my statistics on it. They make you write them down now instead of just sitting there questioning you. It makes the system go a lot
Sure.
faster.
Yeah.
So I hand them my stuff, and she asked me what song I'm going to be singing. She's sitting there reading it, and then she just takes like the last, I'd say, 20 seconds of me singing, and just sits there and focuses on me singing. And so I knew
That's a
something
little
right then was
tough,
kind of
isn't it?
weird. Yeah. And so I'm just sitting there singing this Dan and Shay song. It was a really slow country song, like I said. And then she tells all of us to take 4 steps forward, and I knew I was going to get cut. And I stood back. I didn't want to get cut. She was like, "You two, come up, come up." And so I got cut. They cut my bracelet off, and that was it. But if you made it through, they give you a yellow paper. You'd go up and do the second round of auditions, and that was for the executives. If you get past that, that's when you go to the judges.
Okay. So the second time, how old were you? How old were you when you went this time?
Okay, so now we're fast forwarding. I've moved to Mississippi. I'm married. I've been working at the burger joint for a while. I've been trying to get back into music. And, you know, being in Amory, Mississippi, it's so small. The population is like maybe 5,000, 6,000.
Yeah.
So there's nothing. So I auditioned, and I took like a 15-minute lunch break, and I said, "Hey, honey, I think today would be a good day to mow the yard." She didn't want me to do it. So I was like, "I'm going to go mow the yard. I'll be right back." I take 15 minutes to do this audition. I set myself up. First time I audition, I sing Tennessee Whiskey, played it on the guitar. Figured I can do that really well. Shows off my voice.
Yeah, it's a good tune. It's a good tune.
So I do it, and she looked at me and she was like, "Yeah, that's a really good song. I like that song. It usually takes us about, a week or two to get back with you, but we'll let you know what we think." I knew right then and there I wasn't going to make it. I knew she was going to say no. So I was like, man, I can do better than this. I was nervous. I was being, a scaredy cat. It's like, I just need to calm down. So I auditioned under a different email. Same year, I auditioned again. That next day, I wouldn't take a no for an answer this time. I was determined that I was going to get on this show. This was my time.
Yeah.
So I auditioned again, and this time, Patrick, one of the executive producers, had looked at me. He was talking to everybody, and he said, Jordan Sparks, who won the show, she had auditioned the first time and didn't make it. She came back the second time, killed her audition, and then she went on to win the show. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of the same situation. I think I can do this, and that calmed me.
Yep.
So I go in and I audition with Heartache Tonight by the Eagles. And so, it's got that really powerful, bridge. We can get around the bushes. We can get down the bar. So I'm sitting there rocking it out. And I did all of it a cappella, no music. And the first words that came out of her mouth was, "Where have you been and why have we not found you?"
Mm.
This was the same lady that had auditioned me the day before. So if that tells you
hilarious. That is so funny.
And I'd even told her about that as well, because there was at some point we were filming during the show, and she came up to me and she said, "How's my Lucky Fine doing?" And I said, "Well, you actually told me no my very first audition." She
wasn't an executive producer. She was the first person you had to get past. Okay.
Yeah, she was the first person I had to get past, and so I told her, I was like, "Well, you shut down your Lucky Fine when I sang Tennessee Whiskey." She was like, "What? No, I didn't. If I heard you, I wouldn't have done that." I was like, "No, you did." And so she was just in complete shock. She was like, "Wow, I guess I'm just really gonna have to pay attention to these next auditions," So I may have helped somebody else, for the near future, but yeah, that's what happened. I auditioned on Zoom, and I went through the first round, and as soon as she did that, she looked at me. She was like, I probably could get fired for this. I'm supposed to, put you in the waiting period and let you,
Hmm.
get an email back. But she was like, I'm sending you right through. And so she sent me right through, and within the next 2 minutes, I had the executive producers up, and I sang "Hurt So Good," "Heartache Tonight," and a little bit of old time rock and roll by Bob
Now, is
Seger.
this all on Zoom?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And so after I got done singing my last one, she was like, I really don't need to hear you sing another one. I just want to hear you sing another one." So I sang it.
Hmm.
And once I did that, she was like, "Okay, well, it's a definite yes. You're gonna sing for Katy Perry, Luke Bryan, and Lionel Richie." And so at that point, I was so excited because I was like, "Yes, this is my year. I'm gonna get into it. This is gonna change my life."
Sure.
This I got excited. This is where I was like, "Okay, this is where the real journey begins."
Yep.
Um, and so that's what happened. I mean, it was just as simple as that. It all happened in
And where
the
did you
snap of a
audition? I
finger.
forgot where you were.
I auditioned in my home studio.
No, no, no. When you went to the show for the
Oh, when I
judges.
went to the show, yeah. So they did 3 cities: Las Vegas, New Orleans, and Nashville, and mine was in Nashville.
Oh, well, that's not too far. Not too far for you.
Yeah, which it's really, really weird, and I don't know if I'll get in trouble later on down the road for saying this. I'm not in any contracts, so they can't really say too much. But I've heard that if they have the auditions in Nashville, you're more likely to get a yes in Nashville than you would anywhere else.
Well,
And I don't know why that is.
I, people forget it's an entertainment show.
Yep.
I mean, that's the part you watch it and you're going, okay, why do they even now that they've changed. I know Fremantle's still doing it, but I mean, but the producers have changed to a certain degree, and they've changed the way they do things. Where they used to put a lot of crappy people on there for entertainment purposes. I mean, I
Yes.
can still remember My Pants Gone Down and She Bang, all those people, and you're like, why are they here? That's to get people to watch the frickin' show. That's exactly why they're there.
Oh
And then
yeah.
I've noticed that they don't do that as much, or if they do, they cut a lot of it out. So they get right down to the meat and potatoes. And what
Yep.
song did you sing did you just sing one song for Katie and the group?
I did. I did. I sang one song. Now, before I went into that audition, I planned on auditioning with old time rock and roll.
Right.
But the executive producer looked at me and she was like, "Do you have another song? I see here that you put down Hurt So Good." And this is actually the first time that John Mellencamp's ever cleared one of his songs. Because
Hmm.
remember, they have a cleared list you have to go
Yes, I
off of.
know.
And so this was the first time that John Mellencamp had ever cleared anything. And so they were in shock, but they were like, "Yeah, it's cleared. He cleared it. He can
Oh
sing it."
wow. Yeah.
And so I had I was like, "Yeah, I can sing this hurt so good." And so she was like, "Yeah, it's just old time rock and roll. I mean, it's been used so many times.
Yeah, yeah,
It's more
yeah.
of like a karaoke type song." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, it's true." Never looked at it that way. So I sang it for her, and she was like, "Yeah, I think that's better." So I went with that, and I went in and sang that one song, and it
Were
was
you
like the
accompanied? I don't
first.
remember. Did you do it a cappella or did you have a guitar or piano player with
I
you?
had Fredley, their pianist, had played for me.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy's a great performer himself.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's amazing. He's
Yeah.
amazing. They got some great piano players, and
Yeah.
Fredley was one of them. However, I went in and sang that one song, and it wasn't even 5 seconds into me singing, and Katy Perry was already just like she made her mind up that she was going to say yes. And so, that let me know in my audition. I was like, "Okay, I'm doing good." Usually, I don't think while I'm singing because that's one of the biggest mistakes that a musician can make is thinking. But for me, I'm so excited. I'm looking over and to the right of me. There's like literally 35 to 40 cameras.
Oh
That's
yeah,
just all on this whole side of the room. They leave you there with the idol sign and the judges. And so I'm sitting here having all this going through my mind, but I knew with Katie being so excited, I knew I was doing good. So I quit thinking from there and I just went on. And honestly, I have to go back and watch my audition to figure out what all happened because I honestly a lot of
you
it was
don't
just a
remember.
blur.
You
I
don't
don't
remember.
remember. No.
No, no. And that's the one thing people don't realize that, I mean, I've never been in that position, but I can imagine what it's like. And that is you're in front of three iconic people
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, okay, this is just getting weird now. I'm standing here and I'm going to sing in front of three people. One's all of them multi-million sellers, and all of them got big bucks and they're driving around. But then you're standing there going, this can't be real. I mean, but then you're thrust into it. Go for it. And then you
Yep.
go for it. And then, because you're there singing, what, 2 minutes, maybe 3
Yeah.
minutes, and then it's over.
Yep.
And then they go, hey, yeah, we got you. You're going to Hollywood. And then you're out the door and you're like, what just happened?
And that's exactly what had happened. And, it was weird for me because going through Hollywood week, I was like, okay, I'd like to watch my audition to see what they liked the most so I can take that into Hollywood week. But they wouldn't let us see our auditions. They weren't allowed to.
So
And
what
so
was
I was like, man, it's such a complete blur.
oh yeah. Well, so what was the
I just didn't-
timing when you went to Nashville, and how many weeks later was it before it was Hollywood week? How long did you have to wait?
2 weeks after that.
Oh, that's not very long.
No. Well, the Nashville auditions were the last set of auditions they were
okay.
doing. So it was after that set, because I think they usually start in like September. But mine was like right at the last minute audition, So
And then because I know you can't tell anybody. You can't tell, you can't say anything. It's like, I'm going on America. You can't, because you got that paperwork that says if you did, you're gone. Yeah, they won't hesitate about getting rid of you.
yeah.
And then, so was it as brutal as it appears to be on TV, or is that overwrought a little bit? I know they go through this thing where you have to sing with all these people, which I think is stupid, but that's just the way they do it. Because to me, I guess they're trying to see if people can get along with other people, but you got to sing with what, a group of three or something like that.
A group of two, or sometimes if it's a rare occasion, then you'll have a group of three.
And you don't know any of these other people, do you?
No.
So you got to wander around and go, hey, are you able to do? I mean, it's kind of the luck of the draw. I guess it's almost like that. Okay, so you go through all that, and you went through that, get to go the next round, and then you're in the part where they start. I'm trying to remember. Then you go to the live audiences.
Yes.
Yeah, you've made it, because then they come in and they make their decision who they're going to cut before they go to the live audiences.
Yes.
How many people would you say, just guessing, were in that group before they cut them? Because they cut it down to like 25 or something like that. I don't remember what it is.
Like the top 24, the top 20 usually is what it is. And that's the group that goes into the live shows, and America decides. But as far as it being as dramatic as it looks, I think the duet round was the hardest part of the show.
What did you sing? What'd you sing?
We sang, we mumbled through "I'm Still Standing." At the time, I didn't know it too well, but I knew, the chorus. I'm still standing. Yeah. So I knew the chorus a little bit, and so I figured, I could learn this song. I'd watched the show. I knew how it worked. You got to stay up overnight, learn the song, sing it for your, vocal coaches. Then you can go to bed, and then you got a 4 a.m. wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got maybe 40 minutes of sleep, and
which is always so great on your voice.
Oh, dude, we had stayed up, and for whatever reason, the words just kept leaving our memory. We couldn't remember for anything.
I know that.
So I get backstage right before we're about to go up, and we're sitting there. We don't know what the first lyric is to the first verse. Couldn't figure out.
It's not funny, but I can really appreciate your pain.
Yeah. And so I looked at the executive producer and I was like, can you please go tell so-and-so? Can't say their names. But I was like, please go tell so-and-so that we cannot sing the song. Please ask her if we can sing the Temptations' My Girl. That was one of the songs that was clear.
Yeah.
So he comes back and she was like, nah, she still wants you to do I'm Still Standing. And I was like, great, we're about to get kicked off. I screwed up my whole chances. So we went out there. The biggest thing that they were looking for, and the reason why they do this during duet, there's so many times in the music industry, like let's say the CMTs, if I'm asked to go on, CMT for the awards, the CMA awards, sometimes you're put, they may say, hey, you're supposed to do this duet with Lainey Wilson. Here's the song. You guys are going to be singing Heart Like a Truck. You're you need to do the second verse.
Yep.
So right then and there, I have to stay up and learn that song no matter what, because if they tell me, they tell me. And,
Yep.
that's my job, being
Yep.
paid for it. I'm under contract. I got to do it.
Yep.
So, and so that's why they do it. The industry, they prepare you for the industry, and they, behind the scenes, they call it American Idol University. It's, I would say, one of the best programs to prepare you for what's to come.
Right.
Because there's so many hardships that you're doing. I mean, you listen to people all the time. Like, I heard Jason Aldean the other day talking on a podcast. He was like, man, I had this recording session the entire day, and then I had to play in Vegas that night, and then I'm on a 4 a.m. flight, and I get a call at 6 a.m. and it was, one of my buddies, and he was like, hey, we had a write scheduled for this morning. And so, they try to really prepare you, because you are up for, up to 48 hours sometimes without too much rest.
Yeah.
And so that's just a sacrifice that you have to take, and it's the price you have to pay. But for me, I'm used to it. I'm a night owl. That's when my creativity comes alive, is when I'm at nighttime. That's when I write my best material. And for me, I don't know why.
That's just the way you work.
Yeah.
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 When you hit the top 20 or 25, whatever they do, that just changes the dynamic, because then you're on the live show, then it's real. I mean, it's not that it's not real, but I can only imagine. And of course, you go back and watch from the very beginning to now, the production values are they're huge.
Yeah.
And there's no screwing around, because when they're live, they're live. Obviously, there's a delay, but if you're screwing around, it's like those people are there. And the one question I have, I want a question though that I always wanted to know.
Yeah,
because they bring you in, and they have to obviously set it up before you go sing a song, so you have to sing it twice, don't you? You come to rehearsals with the band.
Yep.
And then they're going to, okay, what do they call it? It's not spotting, whatever they do, where they figure out where they're going to put all the cameras and all that stuff on you.
Yeah, it's director's rehearsal. So they do so many different rehearsals now, but like there's like 5 rehearsals that you end up doing between the director's rehearsal, camera rehearsal, dress rehearsal, and then, so there's so many rehearsals that you do with the band. But I would say about the time that we got to the first live show, I would say it's the showstopper. It's like the 3rd round of Hollywood Week, and this is to see how well you interact with the audience. If the audience accepts you, that's going to let them know, can they make money? Can you become somebody? Do you have the charisma? That's where they check all their boxes.
Oh yeah, the business of music.
So for me, there's about 150 people left in this round of Hollywood Week. I'd say somewhere around that number, about 150 to 100.
That's a lot.
Of people that's singing. And so there's like 3 hours of people just singing nonstop back to back. So I come out there, black sequin, white Freddie Mercury pants. And at the time I wasn't even trying to go for Freddie Mercury. I was just trying to get my own look. Gotcha. But I had sang Don't Stop Me Now. So I come out there, I'm ready to rock with everybody. I got everybody amped up. And, the judges were just amazed. I mean, I went back and watched that episode, and I listened to their comments all the time. And it's just like, they were just like, wow, we think he might be actually win this thing. It's
all about, the quality of music's one thing, but the other thing I think they're looking for, and you can look at all the ones that are still viable, ones that aren't. It's all about it's all about showmanship.
It is. Yeah. 100%.
Because I know, well, I don't know for sure. Taylor was not supposed to win, but the reason he won, Taylor Hicks won in the 5th year, was because he had that audience presence, and that's what you had. That's what we were watching. And I said, my wife and I, oh my gosh, look at this guy. It's like you weren't timid at all. And that obviously goes back to all the years you had been performing before.
Yeah.
And also, this is it. You may never get a chance like this in your life again. So you got to do that.
Yep.
And then, so it goes over several weeks. They keep eliminating people.
Of course.
And then it gets down to, you were in your top 5.
Yep.
Did you, I'm trying to remember. So what was the last song you sang for the judges?
The very last song that I ever sang before I got eliminated was Life is a Highway.
Oh, it's a cool tune. Have you heard the original?
Yeah. And so
that's not the original.
I have.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I know the Rascal Flatts isn't the original, yeah. But I did the Rascal Flatts version,
Yeah.
I would say. And so, it was Disney week, it was themed. But the funny thing is, I wanted to get my kids to Disney and I wanted to get to Disney week. That was my goal.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I didn't really care about winning the show because for me, I knew I knew I had the chance to win this show. And I know a lot of people was like, you're crazy. Ian had it, which I called it second week in Hollywood when I met Ian that he was going to win it. And I told him that straight to his face because I was like, dude, listen, I've watched this show for years. I know how this works. I know what people are after. You are a big teddy bear that everybody's going to fall in love with, And I was like, don't take that the wrong way because he's a little bit bigger. But I was like, man, here's the thing. You look cute. You look like a big old koala bear. And number two, you got a great story. You got a great story that sells. Your voice is just so silky smooth. I was like, you're going to win this thing. He was like, well, I don't really care about winning it. And I was like, you're going to win it, And so we became friends.
I don't care. Like, yeah, really.
Yeah. And Ian was my best friend on that show, dude. Seriously, he was my best friend. I still talk to Ian. I call him. I'll be like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, I'm in Australia. He's just doing whatever. And so I still keep up with Ian. But the thing for me is I knew I wanted to get my kids to Disney. And so backstage during that last performance, I knew that was my last go around. I knew that was the last time I would be fighting for my spot on the idol stage. I knew after that I was going to get eliminated. And nobody told me. I knew.
You knew. It's funny when you see people on that show. It's like watching Dancing with the Stars, and you can see the look on their face. Like, I know this is it. We're going to get cut. Yeah. Two questions, and I'm going to move on to what you're doing now. But how much interaction did the judges actually come and see you and actually talk to you? Do they come and talk to you?
I would say during Hollywood week, we got so much time with the judges because we're all sitting there and, in between commercial breaks, whatever, they're just sitting there at that table and we're all sitting right beside them. And so for me, every time that somebody would get up near Lionel, I was closest to Lionel, so I would try to go sit by Lionel. And so every time we'd had a break, I would sit. Lionel and I would just chat. I mean, we would just talk about anything and everything.
Yeah.
And I'd ask him, I was like, dude, where'd you get that jacket at? Because he had some cool jackets.
Oh, his clothes were cool.
And, I knew that he worked with Michael Michael Jackson for quite some time. Yeah. And so, I was like, oh, gosh, man, I gotta ask him. I got so many questions.
Sure.
So Lionel and I would just sit and talk about everything. But the night of the duet, after they shut the cameras off, we had to stay up. I went to Lionel. And I grabbed his hand because he was talking to somebody else who wasn't paying attention. He was being dragged everywhere. His manager was trying to take him backstage and be like, come on, let's get out of here.
Yep.
But I knew that Lionel wouldn't lie to me. And I knew that Lionel always gives great advice. I'd say he is, out of all three of those judges, to give advice, go to Lionel.
Well, he's been around the longest. He's been through everything. And he's been in a band. He's been a great, and he's not. I think Lionel's only a year or two older than me. So, he's been around. He knows the business.
Yes. And so I grabbed his hand. He looked over at me and he said, hey, what's up? And I said, Lionel, I need to ask you a serious question. Here's Isaac. Here's my partner. Is he going to be a good partner for me? Should I go with him? And if not, tell me who you think I should partner up with. He said, here's the cool thing about you two. You have this rock and roll, energetic performance that you can give. Your vocals are there. He has this in which he didn't get to show it during duet round because we completely screwed up. However, my buddy Isaac, he actually was into MJ as well. And so, we had bonded over that with her talking. I heard him sing a little bit and I was like, yeah, I could partner with this guy. We could do something.
Yeah.
I figured we'd do a Bruno Mars song and just go out there and kill it,
Yeah.
Didn't happen. The song choices were very small. We had to pick them. And if somebody had picked that song already, you couldn't do it. You had to do another one. So I'm Still Standing was the only one that was left for us. Wow. And so we had to do it. And
it's not really a great tune to be auditioning for either. It's kind
of.
No,
it's not, but it's what they had.
Oh, I know. They picked the list out and said, here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And
course,
so, Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So, anyways, I had asked Lionel, and he had told me, he was like, if you guys can figure out how to blend, he said, I think you guys will be just fine tomorrow. And so I said, okay, thank you, good night, see you tomorrow. And so that was it. But I would say throughout the whole entire competition, and especially during the live shows when I got as close as I did, we're definitely around the judges a whole lot more. And so it gets to the point where Katie will just get out in a white robe out of the black Suburban or the black Escalade, and she's no makeup, no hair. She's just, hey everybody, hey Zachariah, how are you? We're just all so they're around quite a good bit, but I would say that they do really try to give great feedback and just great pointers and tips. And I would say Luke was the same with that as well. Katie is if she feels sorry for you, she's going to be more than one to give you that yes, even though she knows you don't deserve it, but she'll do it. So they're all three great, but yeah, they're around you quite a bit.
So you finish up, you walk off stage, you go home, and then you said to yourself, what am I going to do now? What was your plan?
Well, it's actually funny. So before you come out to LA for the live shows, they want you to pack just in case you're the entire time that you're there. But as soon as I got to my hotel room, that first night I was in the W right off of Sunset, and I got in my room and they had all these, it was a really nice room. I opened up the drawers and I was like, I'm going to unpack my suitcase. I'm staying here. I'm not going to allow myself to get kicked off. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to settle. I'm going to get all my stuff in these drawers. That way my clothes are here. I'm not sitting here picking them out every day out of the suitcase, keeping it packed just in case. No, I unpacked my entire suitcase. And keep in mind, I'm going from Mississippi to LA, and I'm there for like a 4-month period. So my suitcase is like packed.
Sure, I didn't know. Yeah.
So, and a lot of people kept their suitcases packed, but I was like, I completely unpacked.
No, yeah.
I knew that this was my year, and I was like, if I made it this far, there's no reason for me to leave now. So I had stayed until the entire time. And the cool thing is, if you go back and watch the episode that I got kicked off, I immediately knew I was going to be leaving. So I just, I kind of turned to Em. I looked at him. I smiled. I was clapping for him because if you look over, we were kind of talking a little bit if the camera shows it. But I was like, you did it, man. Congratulations. And so, and then Ryan had announced that Em was the next one going through, and me and Wayani were, being eliminated.
You're on your way home to Mississippi. You're on the plane thinking you didn't leave. You stayed until the end. I
stayed in LA the entire time, and I was so proud of myself. They have this therapist you talk to or, counselor, whoever, that's there for the show. And so he was asking me, how do you feel? Are you okay? Because sometimes it's a lot of, anxiety and stress that hits people. They're so, mad at themselves. And so they have them there just to calm them down. But I looked at him and I was like, I did what I was meant to do. I finished it. And I'm so excited to start my career now. I've made a name for myself. Mm-hmm. I'm excited, dude. There's not anything you could say. Like, I'm not disappointed at all. Because I knew if I won that show, you're stuck in a 7-year contract.
It's huge.
And 19 Entertainment owns you. Fremantle owns you. They own you. They own your name. And anything that you do, even if I would have went back to the burger joint, they were supposed to make, I think, 25% commission of what I made. So it's just like the contract was absurd. It was obscene. Yeah.
But people sign them because they just want the chance to make it big.
Well, you have to sign them. You have no choice.
If you want to get on, you're going to sign them. But I remember when Kelly Clarkson got out of hers.
Yes.
She kept talking about, this is the greatest thing ever happened.
Yeah.
It's almost like a two-edged sword. You want the opportunity, but you're going to pay for it in the end. Mm-hmm. And until you get out of it. And I think, and I may be wrong in this way, it's almost like signing with a record label. If they like you, they'll promote you, but if they don't really do much, they don't think you're going far, they're not going to spend as much money on you. And that's just the way it is in the music industry.
Here's the thing. You are signing with a record label. You're signing a contract. Okay. Right. This is a recording contract that you are signing before
because you get to have a free album out and they go to the studio and all that stuff. Yeah.
You get to have that single if you make it to the top 5, but the way it works is they study you over the time that you're doing these live shows. And they bring in a bunch of different people from Nashville, LA, New York, and they all work for these record companies, right?
Oh, so they
These
have A&R
labels.
people. Okay.
They got
Yeah.
A&R people that's there, and they're scouting you. They're seeing how you are. They're seeing
Yeah.
how you interact. They're seeing if they can make their money. And so we did American Grace, my single, and after that they did nothing with me, which I was so happy because I was like, I didn't want to be stuck with 19. No, not that they were bad people. They
No,
were
I
all great
understand.
people that I worked with,
Yeah.
but I just knew that I was meant for a bigger label. They were just kind of a label that's supposed to help you get started, but I was like, this
Yeah.
isn't for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very 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 interesting. I mean, I could go on and on. There's
Well,
a
I
lot.
think you the thing about it is it's people, you have to pay your chops no matter what you are. I mean, in
Yep.
this world, you can do a YouTube or TikTok and people pick you up and you might go for a while and people love you. But at the end of the day, people that I talk to I just talked to a gentleman, it's my first phone interview. He was playing here in Dallas. He's been playing for over 50 years.
Yeah.
He's played with you name him, he's performed with them.
Yep.
And he's with a band, great band now. He's 78 years old. And before I interviewed him, I thought, oh man, why is he still doing touring at 78? And then you hear him talk on an interview, and it's like he's talking to a 20-year-old. He
Yeah.
loves it that much.
Yep.
And so, but you don't get to the top unless you pay your dues. So that's kind of a
Yes.
shorter way of paying all your dues, cramming it all together, instead of getting in a bus and touring with your buddies and trying to make a name and all that stuff. So you came back, and what did you want to do then? You came back, and I mean, I've followed some of the stuff you've played around and tried some gigs, but what was your main goal?
So after coming off of Idol, my biggest focus was, okay, I just came off the show. I'm really hot right now. This is the time I need to be writing. I need to be, getting out there doing shows, trying to grow our audience. And I was like, I think I've got a big enough name where we could go do some live shows. And so I went back home, called my cousin, and we figured out a band. And it was a really great band to have for the area that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went back to my hometown in Wabash, and we performed at the Honeywell Center. They announced that I was coming.
Oh, that's why
Within
you
the
were up
first 2
there.
hours.
I was trying to figure out why you were up there. Now I know why. Okay, makes sense.
Within the first 2 hours of them announcing that I was coming, as soon as the tickets went on sale, the whole entire place, 1,600 people, sold out.
Mm.
So I knew right then and there, I was like, okay, this is where the fun starts.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Trout Show. Thank you so much for stopping by. Very, very special thank you to Zachariah Smith. For more information about Zach, you can go to his Instagram site. It's Real Zachariah Smith. Just go to Instagram and Google that, and you'll find him, and you keep track of what he's got going on. Once again, thanks to our supporter, David Smith with Edward Jones. And remember, anything you need to know about The Trout Show, podcast, YouTube, even music that's coming up, visit our website at thetroutshow.com. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Texas Rocker. So until next time, people. Oh, what's coming up next, you say? How about a guy that's been playing with a band for 50 years and has played with almost every single famous person you can think of? That's right. That's next on the Trout Show podcast. Until then, remember what I always say. It's only rock and roll. But I love it. See ya.